So this is how the billet for the Damascus can turned out. It kind of makes a X or pattern crossing U's. And what I think I'm going to do is lay out some of the 15 and 20 steel in a cross pattern to get more of that embellishment of like a snowflake pattern going on. So I hope this works out. If you guys have any tips or suggestions or thoughts, please let me know.
So as always, you start by cleaning the steel. I just went over everything with a wire brush, cleaned it all the way up, and then I went over to my bench, and I thought it was best to pre-soak it in some type of, solvent. I think they recommend kerosene, and I don't have any kerosene in my shop. And I've got some up at my dad's, but I wanted to get it done, so I used mineral spirits. Just a little bit of paint thinner to get it all soaked up, and that seemed to, I thought, work for me. Right about here is where I may have made a mistake. I only tack welded each one of the tiles to themselves on the side instead of doing a bunch of larger welds, which I would have to then grind away after I started setting the original welds. This is the next place I went wrong. I think I set the welds too long, too hard. Personally, I think just watching the forging process is something people call spiritual. I call it just psychological. There's a lot of tests that go into understanding why people enjoy watching things like a fireplace or the beach roll in. And I just think this magical, spiritual, psychological part of the process is something that people just enjoy watching. The hot metal moving under the force and the pressure of a very old mechanical machine. I mean, it is something really magnificent. So maybe in a part of my videos I show a little too much of the actual power hammer, but man, I think it's just pretty. At this part, I'm just trying to cut off the handle and make sure that I grind off any welds that were perhaps along the sides where I tried to tack weld the pieces together. But this is where things kind of really started to go wrong. The billet is still somewhat straight at this point, and I try and make a move to put it back under the hammer and go ahead and crush down the sides of the billet so that it's not so wide and it starts to bend over on itself, and it seems like the welds were splitting out from under itself, like they were almost sliding off each other, and it starts to kind of crumble and fall apart. And this was heartbreaking. So I mean, I shot this video, I'm guessing well over a month ago, and I just didn't have the heart to put it up on YouTube because I was heartbroken. You'll see me make a move right here, and what I'm trying to do is rotate the drive wheel so that it's at the top of its stroke. It gives me the maximum amount of clearance in between its actual anvil face and the face of its hammer, so that I can get the billet underneath it, because you're talking about a billet getting taller or wider as every time you strike it, and the dimensional distance between the top of that guard face and where this anvil hand is about, I'd say, 5-6 inches, but the manufacturer's strike recommendation is nothing larger than 3 inches in diameter.
Next, we make clean cuts on the side to get all the slaggy, gross stuff on the ends off. You'll see it start to clean up a little bit and the patterns start to show as the pieces fall apart. But the most important part is after we started doing some of the acid etching that you'll see in a minute, we noticed that we really needed to clean this up to at least 220 to see an accurate picture of what the pattern's going to look like.
Oh, that's real good. Oh, that's real good.
Like I mentioned before, I think the pattern is very pretty and good and visible, but it didn't turn out exactly the way that I wanted from a viewing standpoint. One, because the camera angle is a little hard to do when you're trying to show something that has a very corrosive acid you don't want to get on your fingers or the camera or anything else. And then also making sure that that you've got the best surface to view it in. So this is in just the raw cut edge, and then you'll see us grind it up and put it to about 220 grit, just so that you can see a much better blended version of the pattern.
Is it recording?
Yep.
Are you in cinematic or video?
Video.